watch the 4 aces. They go on top, the spectator can cut them into the middle, and the spectator can shuffle. So far, this trick is completely hands-off. You, as the magician, then take the cards back, and all you need to do is cut the pack once, and you are able to control all 4 aces to the top of the pack. Everything can be examined. This is the Clump Control. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm on my scooter today because I've got a couple of packages to open, but also I need to teach you something that I should have taught a long time ago, because it's a control that's been in my repertoire for about 7 years, so I can't believe I've not taught it already, to be honest. It's called the Clump Control. But I just stopped for a second because the scooter's getting a bit rattly. I think I found why it's rattling. This is loose. So anyway, as I was saying, the Clump Control is a 4-card control. It can be done with 4 of a kind or just 4 random cards, and the spectator cuts them into the middle of the deck, and then you're able to find them in such an easy way. Now, it does require 2 gimmicks, but they're the same gimmick and you can make them in like 5 minutes. And I have carried 1, or 2 I should say, I've carried 2 in every deck the past 5 years. I should say every working deck, not every single deck. Every deck I perform with. The looks you get when you talk to a camera are brilliant. Okay, I'm here now, so stay tuned to the end. I'll open the package at the end of the video. We'll do the tutorial first, because that's why you're watching this video, let's be fair. Just before we get into constructing the gimmick itself, which is obviously a really important part of the trick, before we get into that, just a little word on this trick. This is a very hands-off trick. Sometimes magicians are a bit careful about gimmicks. They don't like to hand gimmicks over, they don't like to put them in harm's way, and they sort of treat them like little blocks of gold. And you might see that as a good thing, but I see that as a bit of a bad thing, because you don't want to treat these gimmicks any differently than you would a normal deck of cards. So if you're not afraid to put them in harm's way, if you're not afraid to let your spectators shuffle the deck and handle the cards, and you're not afraid to get drinks spilled on them, which happens in just normal life, in normal performances, if you're not afraid to do that, then that's a good thing, because you're treating the cards normally, and so the spectators won't think that there's anything suspicious about the cards. So, grab yourself a 2 of a kind. I like to use the black kings, but you can use any 2 of a kind, the red aces, the jokers, does not matter. And what you want to do is split it 75% of the way down. If you're not sure how to split cards, then I did a video very recently talking about how I split cards with no table or tools or anything, so it's a really simple method that you can do on the go. You want to split it all the way round about to about there, maybe 80% of the way down, just to this little bit, so that the 2 layers are still connected at the bottom. And then you want to take 2 magnets and put them just in the middle like that. On this deck, those 2 white spots, they're a good indicator of where the magnets should go. And once you've done that, then do it to another card, but make sure that they are polarized the same way. Here are some I made earlier in true Blue Peter fashion, and you'll notice they polarize the same way. The 2 cards stick together, they act as one, and at the magician's command, they can become 2 cards. So those are the gimmicks. Really, really simple stuff. A really important note about audience management, because in this case, you want the spectators to do an overhand shuffle. Any other sort of shuffle, a riffle shuffle or whatever, will mess the trick up. So, how do we make sure that the spectator does an overhand shuffle? There are 2 ways that you can make sure a spectator does an overhand shuffle, and one is a really, really neat psychological force that works 90% of the time. If you say to a spectator, give the cards a shuffle, then they will shuffle the cards however they want. But if you add a little gesture, then you can force a spectator to do a certain kind of shuffle, and in this case, the overhand shuffle. So if you go, give the cards a shuffle, as they're holding the deck, they will do an overhand shuffle. They will copy you. It's a brilliant psychological force. They will do an overhand shuffle. And if they don't, well, yeah, the trick's gone wrong. But 90% of the time, this works. You can just say, give the cards a shuffle, and they will do what you do. It's brilliant. So, the second way of doing it, if you don't like the slightly risky method, what you can do is have an ungimmicked, unprepared deck. This is just a normal deck, nothing done to it, and you can hand it to a spectator and just see what they do. And if they do an overhand shuffle, then great, you're in luck. You can use that spectator later when the gimmicks are in play and you need an overhand shuffle to be done. If they start to do a riffle shuffle, you can simply say pass it to the next person along and let them shuffle. The next person along is so likely to do an overhand shuffle. It's just the shuffle that everyone knows. And the reason we can't have the spectator do any other sort of shuffle is this, because these gimmicks are going to trap the 4 cards that we need controlling in between them. Let me show you what I mean, because this is the basics of the clump control. Okay, so we've got our 2 magnetic cards right here and we have a deck. And for this tutorial, just to make it really clear which of the 4 cards we're using, I'm going to use the 4 aces. But when I perform this, I really prefer to use 4 random cards. If I have 4 spectators, I can get them to pick 1 card each, make them all feel really involved. We'll use 4 aces here, and I have used 4 aces in the past. I've used 4 of a kind. I think it's a good version of the trick, definitely something you can perform. But over the years, I've sort of thought that maybe 4 aces is a little bit too perfect. Feels like there could be duplicates or something weird about the aces, whereas 4 random cards, or even 4 named cards, that just feels like the trick is harder in a way. Obviously, the trick isn't any harder, it's still a very easy trick, but with 4 random cards, it almost feels like you've got more work to do, whereas 4 aces, you know, people have seen magicians find 4 aces before, so that's just my thoughts on that. But we'll use the 4 aces here just to make it really, really clear. And the setup is simple. 1 of the magnetic cards goes on the top and 1 goes on the bottom, so you've got 1 on either side, and in this case we'll just have the 4 aces separate. But if you want 4 random cards, then they're not going to touch the top or the bottom cards. You can just have 4 cards randomly selected. And if they do, just say, that's the top card. Pick a different one that's harder, somewhere in the middle. Look what happens when the spectator does this. They take the 4 aces, they show their friends, they put them on top of the deck, square them up, and then they cut them into the middle. Look what happens. The magnetic card on the bottom is now going on top of the 4 cards, and then beneath that is another magnetic card. So when they do this, and they square the deck up, their cards are now sandwiched together into what I call the block. Because, if we spread this through, you'll see it straight away. This is a solid block of cards that acts as one thing. This is a sandwich of magnetic cards, and in between, their 4 cards are going to remain not only in the same order, they're going to remain together no matter what happens to this deck. They can overhand shuffle, like I said before. The overhand shuffle does not affect this. They can shuffle as much as they want. Those cards are not going to change order and they're not going to become separate. And this is the clump control. This is something I've been performing for ages, and instantly you'll be able to see why. What a superpower! Being able to have 4 cards, or even 5 cards, 6 cards. 6 is the limit though. Beyond that, the magnets, you know, it's a bit of risky stuff, they might come apart. But 4 cards in the middle of a shuffled deck can remain together in the same order no matter what happens. You can do other tricks with this prepared in the middle, and you can bring it to the top or the bottom whenever you want. And the way you do that is quite simply by riffling up the back of the deck, and in this case actually they've ended up on the bottom. That happens more than you might think. They'll end up at the top or the bottom. But imagine we have now the cards been cut into the middle, they've been shuffled by the spectator, and they are somewhere in the middle. This block is somewhere in the middle. They think their cards are lost throughout the deck, and you can say that multiple times. You can say the cards have been lost and separated, their order has been changed, and yet, and then at this point you take the cards, and all you do is you riffle up the back of the deck. And instantly, you will feel that click. It's a very solid click. Remember, these 4 cards are stuck together essentially, so you will feel that as you riffle. And all I do is I keep a pinky break. Once I've riffled and I've hit the 4 cards, which I know are below my pinky finger, I just cut once, twice to the table, and those 4 cards are on top. Now, it's actually 6 cards because you do have the top and the bottom cards. They have come with the 4 aces in this case. But all you need to do is get rid of that top card, and you've got the 4 aces on top of the deck from a deck they've just shuffled and you've cut once. So you're so many steps ahead at this point. You know, they're never going to suspect that that cut did anything, it's just a cut. And you might think that you can pass at this point. I wouldn't at all, because there's so much heat on this moment. There's no need for a pass, you can just cut. In a way, a cut is less obvious than a pass, because a cut is just something that people do with cards, so no need for a pass, you just cut the cards. And in that one cut, you have done the control. Couple of options from this point. The first one is slightly more complicated. The second one, which I'll get to in a second, is a bit easier. But this first one involves a second deal, because you're perfectly set up for a second deal. All you need to do is thumb away this top magnetic card, and with a bit more pressure than you'd normally have, that card comes away. So you simply apply pressure and you can deal the 4 aces as if you're dealing them from all the different points of the deck. You can do a slow and steady second deal. And then these 2 cards, the 2 kings, are now magnetized together as one. You can turn the deck over and cop them away if you want. You just put them in a gambler's cop, take it to your pocket, really simple to ditch. Or you can just leave it there. At this point, people aren't really going to care about the deck, they're going to care about the aces. Or the 4 random signed named cards, whatever. They're going to care about the cards more than the deck, essentially. So you don't need to ditch anything, and my advice would be don't rush. Don't rush with the ditch. If you rush to get something away, people are going to think, well, what's he doing? What's he putting in his pocket? So if you just calmly, leave it there or take it away, when they're not looking, then that's going to be much less obvious than trying to run away with that. So yeah, you've got the 4 aces. That's the first version with a second deal. Imagine if we reset very quickly. Another alternative that I've used in the past, although I prefer the second deal version, this is definitely good because it's so self-working. You thumb away this top card, again just apply a bit of pressure, those magnets come apart, and you take this top card off and you show it to them. You actually directly show them one of the gimmicks and you go, this isn't one of your cards, is it? And they'll say no, and you go, and it's not on the bottom either. And they say no, and at this point, as you bring your hands together, you just put this top card on the bottom and you've got rid of the top card. I mean, it really is that simple. And the great thing about this is, once you've revealed that the aces are on top, you can even let them do that at this point because there's no gimmick in the way. Look where we are now. We've got 1 magnetic card on the top, 1 on the bottom. We're perfectly reset. We can do the trick again for the next table or the next group of people if we're at a gig. This resets itself, this version. So there's benefits to both sides. I do like the second deal version because it almost looks like a sort of skillful, deal, a gambling demonstration. And it keeps the gimmicks pretty much in their same place. It allows you to ditch them easier because they're stuck together, but this version you can be even more hands-off because you can let them deal the aces. There isn't really much else to say about this trick other than have fun with it, because it's so easy, anyone can do this, and it looks like real skill. I've used this for so long, I can't believe I've never taught it before, but I feel really good now that I've taught this. And with all that being said, we have some packages to open, so let's not delay any further. We will start with this small one because it's not really that exciting. These are plastic playing cards. Some people will be cringing at the very thought of me buying plastic playing cards on purpose, but I'll tell you why. There is a trick that I'm going to teach here on the channel that needs plastic playing cards. It's the only trick that I use plastic playing cards for. I've said plastic playing cards too many times now, it doesn't sound like a real word, but it's the only trick I use them for, and it's a good one, so you'll want them. Just for this one trick, you will want them. Then, we get to this, which is not something I've ordered. This is actually an antique that I've had in the family, in the house for a while. So, let's open this up and show you what's inside. Inside this box, I have a retro pinball machine. Let's take a look. Honestly, I just love things like this. So the aim of the game is simple. You drop a marble into here. This is spring-loaded, and you ping it away. It lands in some points. Oh, only 100. Okay, and the idea is there's 2 slots here that are 500. There's a 250, a 100. You're really aiming for the 500s. Let's see if I can get 500 here. Go on, go on, go on. Oh, nearly, it bounced. It just missed the 500 there. This is so addictive, honestly. Yeah, it's really, really simple. It's just old pinball, 150 there. But it's so much fun. Final marble. Come on, Cavan. Go on, 500. Yes, 500! So there we have vintage
pinball or bagatelle or whatever you want to call it. This is really, really fun. It stood the test of time. It's still such a fun thing to play. I want to do more things like this on the channel as well, show you interesting items or games, or I'm really interested in stuff like that, so I want to do more of that on the channel. Things that I think this is magical. I think there's something magical about this. You don't really see things like this being made, you know, new things like this anymore, so I think it's so cool. Suggest things that you want me to show, and I'll see if I can get my hands on them. So there we have this video. I really enjoyed making this one actually, and if you enjoyed watching it, then make sure to click the thumbs up button down below. I really appreciate that, and if you are new to the channel, you can watch some of my other videos, and you can consider subscribing as well, helping a small creator out. And also, quick reminder that on the 1st of February, I am releasing my video call any card, any number that I performed here on the channel a while ago. It has become my most requested trick. Everyone has been asking about it, so that's coming on the 1st of Feb to cvn.cards. But that's enough of the self-promotion. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I think you're gonna have to be gentle. We're gonna have to go.